And scientists announced today they have made a major breakthrough in the quest to create life in a laboratory. For the first time, they have produced a living cell in which the active DNA was put together by computers. What does this mean for science, and does it mean there is now synthetic life? Dr. Richard Besser is here.
Synthetic cell, instead of having a genetic relative that it evolved from, the parent of this cell is a computer.
Nel settembre del 1969 un meteorite si schiantò contro Murchison nella regione del Victoria, in Australia. Il meteorite Murchison conteneva una sorpresa straordinaria, le prime molecole organiche di origine extraterrestre. Con un peso di 100 kg, il meteorite si è infine disgregato sopra Murchison, inondando l'area circostante di circa 2000 frammenti di detriti spaziali. La comunità scientifica fu scossa nel 1970 quando il team della NASA annunciò la presenza di 74 diversi aminoacidi nei loro campioni. La maggior parte erano molecole esotiche non trovate sulla Terra, ma in modo notevole 6 erano amminoacidi comuni conosciuti dalla chimica organica terrestre. Queste sono state le prime molecole organiche mai scoperte su un corpo extraterrestre. E che queste molecole fossero state trovate in una roccia più antica della Terra e che fossero in qualche modo sopravvissute nel vuoto dello spazio per milioni di anni, ha ribaltato le teorie sull'evoluzione della vita. Sebbene molti aspetti delle origini e dello sviluppo della vita sulla Terra siano ben noti, alcune parti rimangono un mistero. La teoria darwiniana dell'evoluzione e della selezione naturale è ampiamente accettata, ma c'è ancora un dibattito nella comunità scientifica su ciò che potrebbe aver avviato questo processo. I fulmini nell'atmosfera primitiva della Terra hanno innescato la prima chimica organica? C'è semplicemente un processo sconosciuto in gioco, in attesa di essere scoperto. Questo meteorite è una condrite carbonacea di tipo CM2. Questo gruppo di condriti carbonacee, assieme alle più primitive C1, rappresentano il tipo di materia più primitiva e inalterata in tutto il nostro sistema solare, poiché quest'ultimo vanta un'età stimata di 4 miliardi e 600 milioni di anni. Il fatto che le più recenti rilevazioni datino il meteorite a 7,5 miliardi di anni fa lo colloca tra i reperti di origine esterna al sistema solare. Gli elementi più interessanti di questo meteorite sono la presenza di inclusioni ricche di calcio e alluminio, particolarmente antiche, elevato contenuto di acqua, 12%, e la sorprendente presenza di più di 100 diversi amminoacidi.
Mi chiamo Hiro Hamada e ho lavorato a qualcosa che secondo me è da non credere. Spero vi piaccia. Questo è un microbot. Sembrerà insignificante, ma quando si connette ai suoi amichetti la storia si fa un po' più interessante. I microbot sono controllati da questo trasmettitore neurale. Io penso a cosa voglio che facciano e lo fanno. Le applicazioni per questa tecnologia sono illimitate. Costruzioni. Ciò per cui ci volevano mesi o anni di lavoro manuale di più persone, ora può realizzarlo una sola persona. E questo è solo l'inizio. Parliamo di trasporti. I microbot spostano qualunque cosa in qualunque posto con facilità. Se potete pensarlo, i microbot possono farlo. L'unico limite è l'immaginazione. Microbot!
Sopra gli uomini delle caverne estraevano queste pietre gigantesche, alcune del peso di 100, 200, anche 350 tonnellate.
Un complesso di strutture di pietra risalente a oltre 10.000 anni fa.
Se ne sta lì, mentre noi cerchiamo di capire come è stato fatto.
Ci hanno messo 13 anni a scoprire solo il 5% di una civiltà gigantesca. Sanno cosa c'è sottoterra. Cerchi su cerchi, su cerchi, perfetti cerchi di pietra. E da quei cerchi di pietra si ergono enormi colonne scolpite, alte quasi 6 metri e del peso di 15 tonnellate l'una.
Le applicazioni per questa tecnologia sono illimitate. Costruzioni. Ciò per cui ci volevano mesi o anni di lavoro manuale di più persone, ora può realizzarlo una sola persona.
By the U.S. Air Force Research Laboratory, military scientists have developed a Terminator-like liquid metal that can autonomously change the structure, just like in a Hollywood movie. The scientists developed liquid metal systems for stretchable electronics, that can be bent, folded, crumpled and stretched, are major research areas towards next-generation military devices. Conductive materials change their properties as they are strained or stretched.
Has the properties of land deformation, self-healing, and electrical conductivity. It is expected to be used in clinical medicine or security repair in extreme environments. slime robot has great potential to treat disease of the human GI tract. But before clinical application, we must be sure that it is harmless to the human body and can adapt to the physiological environment of the human GI tract.
Come ha fatto?
Esistono già aerei da guerra britannici le cui parti sono state realizzate con stampanti 3D e gli scienziati stanno utilizzando questa stessa tecnologia per realizzare droni. Il vantaggio militare è evidente: costruire squadre in modo rapido e vicino al campo di battaglia offre un grande vantaggio contro qualsiasi nemico. Ma le ultime innovazioni sviluppate dal professor Lee Cronin dell'Università di Glasgow, Scozia, stanno portando questa gara ad un altro livello. Reazioni chimiche sotto la consulenza industriale di uno dei più grandi appaltatori militari del mondo, BAE System. Cronin sta sviluppando quello che chiama un CHEMPUTER, un gioco di parole su chimica e computer. Sarà in grado di far crescere piccoli droni in laboratorio. Ecco come saranno realizzati i droni militari del futuro. Mentre una stampante 3D realizza fisicamente le parti di una macchina, il CHEMPUTER accelera le reazioni chimiche a livello molecolare. Ciò significherebbe che invece di impiegare mesi o anni per costruire un aereo, sarebbero pronti nel giro di poche settimane. Tuttavia il professor Cronin ammette che creare un aereo dalle sostanze chimiche è una grande sfida, ma afferma che lo sviluppo di un motore di sintesi digitale consentirà di assemblare oggetti complessi con un'assistenza umana minima, almeno in futuro. Anche se ciò può sembrare che questo sia ancora molto lontano, un'altra innovazione potrebbe essere vicina.
But if we rather instead built a state machine, a chemical robot, that would start to explore chemical space randomly by mixing stuff and trial and error, maybe we might find how life can emerge, not just on Earth, but anywhere. So what I did about 10 years ago is I built a chemical state machine, and all the chemical state machine is, it's basically a robot with a computer language that is a chemical language that we write in the laws of chemistry, do reaction, do separation, you know, and all that type of stuff. And we put the unit operations together as shown here. We have a scheduler, we execute, we look at the state. But let me not show you a boring picture. Let me show you a couple of quick videos that will go very fast. On the left-hand side, they're showing us building our chemical state machine and all the pumps and the valve. On the right-hand side, showing you how you can take some chemical recipes and write them in the robot and basically get it to do the chemistry that's happening on the left-hand side. I apologize that I've got two very dense videos running at the same time, but you should be able to kind of see what's going on. On the left-hand side, the robot is controlling the chemistry, and on the right-hand side, we're able to do a design of experiments through that chemistry. Because this is the kind of foundation of the search for new life that we want to do in the lab. Now here, obviously, if I went to funders, I don't know what it's like everywhere, but if I went to a funder and said, hey, I need 10 million pounds to make an origin of life engine, please. I don't know if it's going to work. The funders might say, oh, you know, Lee, we really like the origin of life idea, but, you know, RNA did it, and so don't worry. But what I did instead is say, well, hey, hang on, why don't we look and do drug discovery? And they said, oh, great, have some money. And by the way, once we're doing drug discovery, can we use this to repurpose it for the search for new life forms? They said, okay, go on. And that's kind of one of the points I want to make to young scientists here. It's like, you don't have to lie about your vision, but sometimes when your funders and your peers don't share your vision, just say, well, what are you interested in? And find a common overlap. And one of the reasons I built the computer was because of my desire, my certainty that we need to build an origin of life engine. CERN has a wonderful machinery publicity machine. The Large Hadron Collider, everyone was on the edges of their seats. Is the Higgs there or not? And it's a multi-billion-dollar experiment spent on fundamental particle physics. I think we should have a multi-billion-dollar worldwide project spent on looking at the origin of life and artificial life. And I'm sure many of people watching this today would agree. So we have to go in the lab and build this, but what are we doing? Well, rather than using dogma, we need to use probability. By having a Bayesian framework for the origin of life, then we might be able to think about, okay, let's test the RNA world. So let's put some RNA in a pot and mix it and do chemistry and understand what's happening in terms of assembly space. We measure the assembly number. Is the RNA becoming more lifelike? And then we can then kind of change our priors as a function of what we observe in the laboratory. So we can change this using the observation from our living soup, the likely observation from a non-living soup. So that's the kind of idea. So now we've got the computer, we have the probability, and then we had the kind of trial and error we were doing in my group a few years ago to get ready to use the computer. We want to basically do complex chemistry with complexity that depends on its history. And we need to explore soups, and we need to automate many reactions, and it's very, very messy. And the kind of workflow that we've got is this mass spec workflow that applies assembly theory. And I know that there are other teams in the world using mass spec as well and using other theories which are equally as valid and interesting to explore how molecules are moving through these complex mixtures. But the point I want to make is that the automation is coming together, the theory is coming together, and finally, the analytical chemistry is coming together. So we've been doing exploration of soups with computers. We've been running experiments for more than 30 days. We're generating lots of data. I mean, Wilhelm said at the beginning, I'm a bit of a geek. I have a dream of generating a petabyte of data in a few weeks. We're actually not that far away. We're generating hundreds of terabytes of data, which is a real nightmare. And what we're doing is we're looking for the assembly number increase. But I've only got 2 slides left. and I'm going to try and bring this all together to explain what we're actually doing. We've got a new approach to creating life. That is programming the search for mess. And when we have a history in that mess, does that give rise to evolution? Because my theory, and I think I'm not alone in sharing this theory, is that biology did not create evolution. Evolution created biology. And we should stop worrying about what did happen, and instead we should worry about what does happen. So to do that, we had to make a new theory for biology and evolution. We had to build a model to simulate the emergence of biology. We have to then have a machine to emerge the new biology, and we need to have a metric. And so this figure here is a figure that Sarah and I produced when we were writing a perspective many years ago for science to say, look, origin of life is really interesting. It's great there are so many people involved from lots of different areas, where RNA world, the peptide world, whatever. But what about if we start thinking about coming from a non-living world and putting information into the system? And I think that's kind of the thing I want to leave you with, that we can start to see with assembly theory the propagation of information through chemical systems when they become open-ended evolvers. I want to stop here. I'm going to stop perfectly on 25 minutes, and I want to thank my team. Here, it was the year of the lockdown, so we all took lockdown selfies. I would love to thank them for their hard work. I also must acknowledge the University of Glasgow, who've been really supportive, European Research Council, the EPSRC, who were key funders, the Templeton Foundation, who also actually funded the Origin of Life work explicitly. They were really supportive of the mathematical development. And without the Templeton, I wouldn't be able to get that off the ground, and all these other funders here. But last but not least, I'd like to thank Wilhelm and his team for putting this on, and also you guys for listening, and I'm happy to answer questions. Thank you.